My name was Amir. I was a teacher of theology in a prestigious Islamic university in Cambridge. Revered yet bound by tradition, I wore my faith like a cloak, heavy with expectations yet fraying at the seams. I dedicated my life to guiding students, instilling in them the very doctrines that, deep down, began to suffocate me. I should have felt fulfilled, but beneath the surface, a tempest stirred. I was filled with questions as unanswered as the night sky. Then, one fateful day, I collapsed. As I slipped into the darkness of a coma, the weight of my world fell away. I found myself in a shadowy void, where every whisper of my teachings faded into nothingness. It was there, where fear danced with despair, that I met him, Jesus. He did not come to scorn my traditions. Instead, he radiated a divine light that pierced through my doubts. In that moment, I realized I was caught in a spiritual war, a battle I had never acknowledged, yet one that defined my existence. What he revealed shook the very foundations of my beliefs. I saw walls of dogma crumble, only to be replaced by a truth that ignited my soul. The revelations of that encounter transcended mere theology. They exposed a hidden reality, an intricate web of deception woven through faith, politics, and education. I was no longer merely Amir, the devout professor. I became a witness to a profound awakening. Upon awakening from my coma, the glory of that divine light felt like both a blessing and a curse. My family and colleagues labeled me a heretic. The path of enlightenment I thought I had found plunged me into isolation. Yet within that solitude, a new call beckoned. I began to confront my fears, yearning for truth amidst the turmoil of rejection. A truth that could liberate others from the chains of empty traditions. Today, as I stand before you, I invite you to join me on this journey of discovery, as I share the powerful testimony that transformed my life forever. Before we dive in, take a moment. Where are you watching from, and what time is it there? Leave a comment below, as every connection counts. And if you love Jesus and are eager to uncover hidden truths, subscribe to Truth from Beyond. For what's to come is not just my story, but a revelation that could change everything. In the heart of Cambridge, surrounded by esteemed scholars and surrounded by the echo of history, I found myself grappling with profound questions in an Islamic university that revered tradition. As a professor, I had always taken pride in my role, guiding my students in their pursuit of knowledge, while adhering strictly to the teachings of our faith. But beneath that facade of respectability, I felt an overwhelming sense of disquiet. Conversations about spirituality were often stifled by fear of being perceived as disloyal to our beliefs, and questions lingered unasked, hovering like ghosts in the silence. It was in this oppressive silence that my struggles began to grow, leading me into an exploration that would change everything. For years, I had buried my doubts beneath layers of duty and expectation. Each day began with prayers, but the connection I sought felt increasingly distant, a flickering light behind a veil of indecision. As I stood before my students, imparting wisdom, I couldn't help but feel a growing void within, a hunger for deeper understanding that traditional dogma simply couldn't satisfy. Late at night, I'd find myself engulfed in thoughts too dangerous to surface during the day. I felt trapped in a spiritual war, one that was invisible to those around me, yet inescapable in my heart. Then came the shocking event that altered the course of my life. While leaving the university one evening, I experienced a catastrophic accident, a collision that rendered me unconscious in an instant. In that state of clinical death, I drifted into a realm where sound and sight unraveled. Darkness enveloped me, but it was there, In that profound void that I met Jesus. His presence broke through the silence, like a tidal wave of love and illumination, casting aside my doubts and fears. He spoke to me without words, communicating truths that resonated deeply within my soul. In that moment, I was overwhelmed by a revelation of the spiritual war raging in our world. A war not just between ideologies, but a battle for the truth itself. I saw how the elite, in their quest for power, had woven hidden agendas into the very fabric of society. Fear, division, and deception were their tools, keeping people compliant and disillusioned. I could see the conflicts around the globe. The wars that had torn communities apart were manifestations of a greater struggle for the souls of humanity. The clarity was excruciating and beautiful at the same time, a call to arms for all seeking the authenticity that had been obscured. As I returned to consciousness in the hospital, Jesus' message lingered like an echo, compelling me to act. I had seen the truth behind the veil, and I could no longer abide by the constraints of my former life. The awakening I experienced was not only for me, it was a calling to share my journey with others trapped by the same deceptions I had faced. Each moment since then has been filled with the urgency to uncover and share the truths, to help others break free from the chains of conformity. Yet, as I embraced this new path, I was acutely aware of the risks involved. The fear of disappointing my family and community pressed heavily upon me, but the desire to illuminate the way for others has become a driving force in my life. The journey to speak the truth had only just begun, and I felt ready to face whatever lay ahead, fueled by the revelations bestowed upon me in that sacred encounter. As a respected theology professor in Cambridge, I dedicated my life to exploring the depths of Islamic teachings. But the weight of familial and religious expectations increasingly pressed down on me. Dressed in traditional attire that reflected discipline and reverence, I portrayed an image of commitment that my peers admired. Yet inside, I wrestled with a profound spiritual emptiness, an unsettling realization that my once vibrant faith had devolved into a mere obligation. The prayers I offered felt mechanical, devoid of the connection and meaning I desperately sought. I found myself questioning if this was all there was to my faith, performing rituals without understanding, feeling lost in a world that craved genuine purpose. In the quiet moments between lectures, the conflict grew heavier. I experienced nightmares that haunted my sleep, visions filled with confusion and despair about my spiritual path. These dreams stirred an internal fear that my faith did not grant me the answers I sought, but rather trapped me within a cycle of monotony. The realization gnawed at me. Perhaps blind obedience masked a deeper deception. If the very essence of my beliefs kept me from discovering truth, what then was the legacy I would leave behind? I felt a yearning for awakening, a desire to break free from the constraints that held my spirit captive. The moment everything changed arose unexpectedly during a quiet afternoon at the university mosque. I was deep in thought, grappling with these heavy questions, when I suddenly felt an overwhelming sensation, as if energy surged through every part of my being. That wave of energy lifted me and, in a heartbeat, I found myself in a realm beyond the physical. I drifted into a near-death experience that transcended time and space. In that realm of light and love, I encountered Jesus. His presence enveloped me, filling me with peace that collided with the chaos I had previously felt. He called my name softly, and suddenly I was filled with an understanding that pierced the darkness. In those moments with Jesus, revelations unfolded before me. I saw the hidden agendas that have plagued humanity, how the elite manipulate belief systems to sow fear, maintaining control over the masses by fostering division. I witnessed the rampant deception that obscured the truth, recognizing how societal frameworks often led people away from genuine connection, causing the very spiritual wars that consumed us. The breadth of these insights opened my heart to the reality that the world's pain stemmed from misunderstanding and fear, that true liberation lies in awakening to love and truth. When I awoke from that experience, the physical world seemed stark against the backdrop of the profound love I had felt. I was filled with a sense of urgency to fulfill the calling I had received. I knew then that I could no longer remain silent about the truths I had encountered. The spiritual awakening that had transformed my essence had to be shared. This message needed to reach those who were lost within their own shadows. However, I grappled with fear of rejection as I prepared to step out of the confines of my previous identity. Could I be an effective voice for those seeking connection and truth? Or would the fear of backlash from my community seal my lips? The journey ahead promised challenges, but I understood that the time to act was now. The world needed light, and I felt destined to shine it, no matter the cost. In my role as a professor at the University Mosque in Cambridge, I devoted my life to studying and teaching Islamic theology, believing deeply in the principles that shape my identity. But as I glanced around my classroom, a growing disconnection weighed on me, particularly during my prayers. Those moments that should have brought me peace instead echoed back at me, hollow and lifeless. Each invocation felt more like a formality than a genuine engagement with the divine. I struggled silently, feeling an emptiness that gnawed at my soul, wondering if what I was practicing was truly the faith that nourished my spirit. As I contemplated my discontent, unsettling visions invaded my nights. I found myself dreaming of vast expanses of darkness intertwined with piercing lights, a stark contrast that mirrored my internal conflict. In these visions, I roamed through spaces thick with shadows, but occasionally caught glimpses of luminescence, suggesting hope amid the despair. They symbolized the struggle I faced between the traditions that grounded my life and a burgeoning desire for a deeper truth. Each morning, I awoke shaken yet curious, grappling with the realization that my long-held beliefs might be failing to fulfill me. Then, during one particularly restless night, I encountered a moment that shifted everything. As I drifted closer to sleep, I was enveloped in a profound silence, and suddenly, I felt myself slipping away from the world. It was in this surreal space between realms that I met Jesus. Adorned in a light that felt alive, he looked at me with eyes brimming with compassion. In that gaze, I felt the weight of my struggles dissipate, replaced by a flood of warmth that filled my being. I was struck by his presence, and in that moment I understood. This was not merely a vision, it was a divine calling. During this encounter, Jesus shared revelations that unraveled the layers of deception I had been living under. He illuminated the hidden agendas of the elite, revealing how they exploit the faith of the masses to maintain control. I saw the fragility of our world, the spiritual war raging in the hearts and minds of humanity. The truth of manipulation hit me hard, exposing how fear and division are used to separate us and prevent unity. I witnessed how spiritual leaders often become tools of deception, leading followers away from genuine connection with the divine. Each revelation felt like a key, unlocking doors to understanding that had long been barred by doubt and tradition. As I returned to consciousness, the realities I had witnessed echoed in my mind and my heart. I realized that I could no longer live a life constrained by fear or the expectations of others. A fierce determination grew within me, an awakening to the truth I had been seeking. I felt compelled to share my experiences, to bear witness to the transformation Jesus had brought into my life. However, fear lingered. I worried about the backlash I might face from my community and loved ones. Would they embrace my revelations, or would they cast me aside as a heretic? Despite these uncertainties, I knew I was ready to confront the challenges ahead. The spiritual war I had experienced called for boldness, and the truth I had found became my guiding light. The day my life took an unexpected turn started like any other. As a professor of theology at the University Mosque in Cambridge, I filled my hours with lectures and discussions, a life defined by the pursuit of knowledge. But beneath the surface, I felt a growing discontent brewing within me. The rigorous adherence to tradition often left me feeling suffocated, as if the very faith that should have been a source of strength was instead weaving a tapestry of confusion and doubt. Those moments of silence between classes always echoed loudly in my mind, filled with questions that seemed too dangerous to voice. It wasn't long before that inner turmoil manifested physically. One afternoon in the lecture hall, the weight of my worries became unbearable, pulling me into darkness. Suddenly, I collapsed, my body giving in to the relentless pressure of stress and existential questioning. When I slipped away, I entered a state of clinical death that felt both terrifying and strangely peaceful. I found myself in a dark realm, a space filled with shadows and disquieting silence. In that void, a figure emerged from the darkness. Jesus. His light cut through the despair surrounding me, illuminating the space and drawing me closer. As I approached him, I felt enveloped by a profound warmth that immediately eased my fears. "Amir," he called gently, and I felt a surge of recognition and love that pierced my very core. In that moment, I understood I was not just witnessing a vision. I was experiencing a revelation that would challenge everything I thought I knew about faith and life. Jesus revealed the hidden agendas that infect our society, explanations of how the elite manipulate belief systems and perpetuate division among us. The truth became glaringly obvious. The spiritual war one had felt within myself expanded into a global conflict, one that thrived on deception and kept humanity shackled in fear. I saw visions of political turmoil, wars ignited by manipulation, and the struggles of people yearning for peace and connection, yet kept apart by the very structures that should unite us. I realized this was no mere theoretical battle. It was a fight for the souls of countless individuals, a struggle against the narratives that kept us entrenched in ignorance. In that powerful light, I felt the urgency of my mission become clear. I couldn't return to my life unchanged. It was my responsibility to share this truth, to awaken others to the realities I had seen. When I finally regained consciousness in the hospital, the experience still lingered vividly in my mind, but the weight of the world pressed down on me once again. I wanted to shout the revelations from the rooftops, to help those still trapped in darkness. However, the fear of judgment from my family and community loomed over me like a dark cloud. Would they understand the profound transformation I had undergone? Would they welcome me, or would they cast me aside as a heretic? Despite my internal conflict, I felt a growing determination to act. The call to share what I had witnessed became a driving force, propelling me toward an awakening that could challenge the very foundations of the deception we face in our world. Waking up from the coma was disorienting, as if I had been pulled back from another world, one filled with warmth and purpose. The harsh fluorescent lights of the hospital were jarring against the memories of the love and light I had encountered. But as I lay there, I quickly realized that my return to consciousness marked the beginning of another battle, a spiritual war that raged not only within me, but also outside in the world. The moment I tried to reconnect with my family and colleagues, the harsh reality hit me like a wave. Whispers of heresy echoed in my ears, leaving me feeling isolated and alone. I had always prided myself on my dedication to faith and tradition. Now my family, once a source of strength, looked upon me with disdain. How could they understand the transformative encounter I had with Jesus, the revelations that had shattered my previous understanding? Their accusations felt like daggers, piercing the fragile foundation of my world. I could sense their disappointment, the fear that my transformation would somehow tarnish our lineage, our beliefs. The guilt settled heavily on my heart as I struggled to reconcile my principles with the truth I now carried, truths I felt compelled to share. Each interaction became a source of tension. My colleagues, who had once respected my opinions, now hesitated in their conversations with me, the air thick with unspoken doubts. I was labeled as someone who had strayed from the path, an outsider in my own community. I often lay awake at night, haunted by the memories of my spiritual awakening, the vision of Jesus that wrapped around me like a loving embrace. I was filled with such clarity about the hidden agendas of the elite, who manipulate fear to exert control over the masses, yet my voice felt muted, stifled by the weight of accusation and the fear of rejection. As the days passed, I began to question my own resolve. Was it worth it to stand firm in my newfound truth if it meant losing everything I had known? The internal struggle intensified as the longing for belonging clashed with the urgency of my spiritual mission. I grappled with feelings of isolation, questioning whether I could inspire others to awaken if I couldn't even find acceptance within my family. Every whisper of doubt echoed loudly in my mind, creating a chaotic chorus that drowned out the peace I once felt. Yet deep down, the conviction to share my journey refused to be extinguished, propelling me forward despite the looming shadows of fear. I sought solace in prayer, turning to Jesus in my quiet moments, asking for guidance and for strength to navigate these complicated waters. It became increasingly clear that my experience was not just for me. It was a message meant to liberate others from their chains of deception. I envisioned gathering those who found themselves in similar dark places, sharing stories that might ignite their own spiritual awakenings. I knew there were countless souls struggling against the tides of confusion, searching for light in their own darkness. While my journey felt fraught with peril, the thought of uniting with others in the search for truth felt like a beacon of hope. The battle was far from over, but I could no longer hide from my calling. I had to step into the light and bear witness to the truth I had found, no matter the cost. In my quest for clarity, I felt drawn to explore the Bible, grappling with the tumultuous waves of doubt and confusion that had begun to wash over me. As a Muslim professor at the University Mosque in Cambridge, I had dedicated my life to the teachings of Islam, yet something within me stirred, a deep yearning for understanding that my traditional beliefs seemed unable to satiate. I found myself staring at the pages of the Bible with a mixture of trepidation and curiosity. The words seemed almost alive, beckoning me to discover a truth I felt had been withheld from me for too long. As I read and absorbed the messages within those pages, I sought out online testimonies of others who had navigated similar spiritual journeys. Hearing their stories sparked something profound within me, a sense of connection amidst the loneliness I had begun to feel. Those who had been where I was and had emerged transformed showed me that I wasn't alone in my struggle for faith. With each testimony, I felt a sense of awakening, a warmth blossoming in my heart, as I realized that there was a hidden community of believers out there, ones who understood my disillusionment with the status quo and were eager to welcome me into their fold. Yet, even as I began to find a sense of peace among these stories, an underlying fear bubbled to the surface. I couldn't shake the feeling that embracing these newfound beliefs would lead to the loss of my identity, my family, and the cultural ties I had cherished throughout my life. Each time I dared to reflect on my evolving faith, the dread of rejection and isolation loomed large. How would my family react if they knew I was exploring Christianity? Would they see me as a traitor, abandoning the beliefs that had been handed down through generations? The internal conflict weighed heavily on me, straddling the line between my desire for spiritual truth and the potential fallout of such a choice. In the thick of this emotional turmoil, an encounter with Jesus unfolded, shattering my preconceived notions of faith. One evening, as I lay in bed struggling to reconcile these opposing forces, I felt an overwhelming presence envelop me. It was both terrifying and exhilarating, a moment of divine revelation. Jesus appeared before me, radiating a warmth and understanding that cut through my fear and despair. In that sacred space, I was shown not only the love that he embodied, but also the hidden agendas that manipulate our world. I saw the elite at work, the machinery of deception they maneuvered to keep humanity divided and weakened. Each revelation peeled back layers of misunderstanding, unveiling the urgent reality of the spiritual war at play. This awakening illuminated the divisions that society feeds on, the false narratives that keep us trapped in cycles of conflict and strife. As I absorbed these truths, my heart raced with both fear and excitement. I knew that this knowledge wasn't just for me, but a mandate to share with others who felt lost along their spiritual journeys. Yet, the same anxiety that accompanied my awakening now acted as a cautious whisper in my ear, reminding me of the vulnerability inherent in both sharing my experience and stepping into a light that could illuminate others' paths. Переходить к следующей мысли. In the weeks following my encounter with Jesus, I found myself grappling with the profound realization that my transformative experience was not just a moment of clarity. It felt like a divine calling, a purpose compelling me to act. The truths I had witnessed during my near-death experience haunted me in my quiet moments, urging me to confront the spiritual war unfolding around us. I could no longer remain silent about the hidden agendas that ensnared so many in deception, even if it meant risking everything I had ever known. As I delved deeper into my explorations, I recognized that fear held many of us captive, preventing genuine awakening. I began to see the oppressive tendencies in the structures around me, how the elite maintain their power through manipulation and misinformation, crafting narratives that keep us feeling small and divided. Each revelation felt like a weight lifted from my shoulders, igniting an urgency to share my newfound understanding with others still trapped in the shadows. I knew the risk of speaking out was significant. I could face rejection from my family and community, but the truth felt too important to stay silent about. Doubts and anxieties surged within me, battling for dominance over my newfound courage. Could I truly become a messenger of this awakening? Would I be able to articulate the revelations in a way that others would understand? The shadows of my past loomed large, clutching at me, but I was determined to face them. I envisioned gatherings where we could discuss these profound truths, where others might share their own struggles and awakenings. Each thought of connecting with others motivated me further. But I also knew that navigating this new path would not be without heartache. As I began reaching out to others within my community, I discovered a mix of skepticism and openness. Many were deeply entrenched in their beliefs, unwilling to see beyond the surface of a faith that had become mere routine. But there were others who were also seeking, craving deeper meaning, and their willingness to listen filled me with hope. I shared my testimony of encountering Jesus, the love I felt, and the revelations about the spiritual war that rages within and around us. The fear and division peddled by the elite were made starkly clear, and I encouraged them to challenge societal norms, question the narratives that had long held them captive. Together we began to forge a community dedicated to spiritual awakening, one that challenged our previous understandings and bravely confronted the hidden deceptions. I could feel the momentum building, a collective energy surging as we explored our doubts and sought the deeper truth lying beneath the surface. Yet, as our numbers grew, so did the uncertainty of what lay ahead. The stakes felt higher, and I realized that while we sought to uncover the truth, we would inevitably encounter resistance, not just from the world around us, but perhaps even from those we loved most. Still, the flame of purpose within me burned brightly, ready to guide me and others through the uncertainty of our journey, eager to face whatever challenges awaited. In the aftermath of my transformative encounter, I made a resolute decision to abandon my past life. This choice was not just about changing my surroundings, it was a profound reclamation of my identity. I took on a new name, one that symbolized the awakening I had experienced, and with it, I embarked on a symbolic journey through the desert of my soul. The sands of this inner desert were heavy with the fear and doubt I had carried for so long. Yet, I felt a surge of freedom as I trudged forward, ready to liberate myself from the shackles of my previous beliefs. Each step into this new life was both exhilarating and daunting. As I ventured deeper into this awakening, I found solace in moments of solitude. They allowed me to confront the internal struggles that had kept me from fully embracing the truth I had found in Jesus. The spiritual war one now recognized in my life wasn't just about the battles we face externally, but the wars we fight within ourselves. I began to see how fear had dictated my decisions, stifling my spirit and preventing me from pursuing my true purpose. In the vast emptiness of the desert, I discovered the importance of nurturing the seeds of faith that had begun to sprout within me after my near-death experience. I felt compelled to share what I had learned, to help others who were struggling to find their own spiritual truths. I started reaching out to those who, like me, had experienced doubt and fear. Serving them became a priority, a necessary step to connect with others who might be on a similar quest for understanding. In doing so, I also found pieces of my own healing. My heart swelled with hope as I shared my testimony, speaking of the love of Jesus and the revelations I had received about the hidden agendas of the elite. These truths became a catalyst for discussions about the significant issues plaguing our society: wars, poverty, and the division that seemed to permeate every level of human interaction. Yet, as I began to walk this new path, I was acutely aware of the risks involved. The fear of backlash from my former community loomed over me like a dark cloud. Would my family understand my transformation, or would they view it as a betrayal of our shared beliefs? The tension of potentially severing those crucial familial and cultural ties weighed heavily on my consciousness. I navigated this internal conflict while also supporting others on their spiritual journeys. Each time I shared my story, I recognized that I was not just revealing my own truth, but also shining light on the deception that so many had accepted without question. Despite my fears, the urgency to act grew stronger. I understood that the truth must be spoken, regardless of the possible consequences. This mission was about awakening to the realities that lie beneath the surface, breaking the chains of deception that entrap too many souls. With each encounter, I felt a renewed sense of purpose infuse my spirit. I was finally living the life I had longed for, one marked by authenticity, love, and a commitment to serve those seeking the light. My journey through the desert taught me that while the path may be fraught with challenges, the reward of spiritual freedom and the joy of connection with others made every step worthwhile. As I embraced my new identity and mission, I felt a profound sense of liberation wash over me. No longer was I bound by the expectations that had guided my life. Instead, I found a compelling calling to share my testimony with others. I began speaking openly about my experiences, advocating for freedom from the empty traditions that often stifled our spiritual growth. Each time I recounted my journey, from the depths of despair through my near-death encounter with Jesus to my awakening, I watched as eyes lit up with recognition and understanding. I realized that many souls resonated with my struggle and were searching for their own meaning. There was an urgency in sharing these truths, especially in a world filled with rampant deception. The realization that the spiritual war we face is deeply rooted in our willingness to accept or reject the narratives fed to us by the elite felt like a call to arms. I had seen firsthand how these hidden agendas manipulate our perceptions, crafting a reality where fear reigns and division persists. The more I spoke about this awakening, the more invigorated I felt. It was as if I were igniting a spark in others, urging them to question what they had always accepted as reality. As I ventured further into this new mission, the reactions from my community varied widely. Some were genuinely interested, eager to hear about my experiences and insights. Others, however, met my words with skepticism or outright hostility. There were moments when I felt the sting of rejection, but each negative encounter only strengthened my resolve. I recognized that speaking the truth often comes at a cost. Yet, the encouragement I received from those who embraced my message reminded me that I wasn't alone. We were in this together, navigating the turbulent waters of spiritual awakening in a world rife with conflict. Finding a supportive community became crucial. I sought out gatherings where honesty could flow freely, where people shared their struggles openly, without fear of judgment. In these spaces, we explored how to break free from the bonds of deception that held so many captive. Each new story added another layer to our collective understanding of the hidden agendas at play in our lives, and together we began to cultivate a deeper awareness of the truths that bind us together as human beings. I knew this wasn't just about me. It was a larger movement toward awakening. As I committed to my path, moments of doubt still crept in, often late at night when silence enveloped me. I questioned whether I could truly make a difference or whether my voice, in the grand scheme of things, was insignificant. But I remembered the transcendent love I experienced with Jesus, how he had called me into the light, and that memory propelled me forward. Each heartbeat was a reminder that I was part of something larger, a greater truth unfolding that beckoned for all of us to engage in this spiritual war. I felt an unwavering commitment to help others find their way out of the darkness and into the light, knowing that the journey we embarked upon could lead to a lasting awakening for countless souls. Years have passed since my encounter with Jesus, and the memories still pulse vividly within me. I found my place within a faith community that believes in the transformative power of truth and love. Together, we strive to walk a path that embraces faith without the constraints of past traditions. My journey, marked by initial doubts and fears, has become a source of inspiration for many who seek to break free from the chains of oppressive customs. Each time I share my testimony, I witness sparks of recognition in the faces of others, as if they too can feel the weight of deception being lifted. Yet, even in my newfound home, I harbor a deep yearning for reconciliation, particularly with my family. The ache of separation engulfs me at times, especially when memories of shared laughter and love flood back. I often wonder how they perceive my journey. Do they think of me as a traitor, or could they possibly see that my spiritual war led me to a profound awakening? I long for the moment when I can bridge the gap between our beliefs and invite them to understand the freedom I have found in my relationship with Jesus. This reconciliation feels crucial, as it embodies the very essence of the truth I now live by, that faith should uplift, not confine. In our community, we engage in deep discussions about the hidden agendas that control much of society today. We dissect how the elite manipulate information to maintain power, creating systems that perpetuate fear and division. With every revelation shared, I feel more convinced that the spiritual awakening we're experiencing is a direct response to these deceptions. It's as if we are collectively recognizing the threads that bind us, not just as individuals, but as a society. I've witnessed how powerful it can be when people come together to challenge the narratives that have kept them enslaved to ignorance and fear. Each gathering feels like a sacred moment, filled with an electric energy of hope and healing. We share not only our struggles but also our triumphs, celebrating the small victories that come with embracing the truth. The sense of urgency within these meetings is tangible. We understand that as we awaken, the world around us becomes ripe for transformation. I often feel Jesus' presence among us, guiding our conversations, encouraging us to delve deeper into the spiritual battles we face, and reminding us that our mission is to spread light in a world so filled with darkness. Yet, as I engage in this vital work, my heart still wrestles with vulnerability. What if the rejection from my family continues forever? What if the risk of isolation becomes a reality? It's these fears that sometimes cloud my resolve, but each time I hear someone express their gratitude for the truths we're uncovering together, I am reminded of why I must continue. The journey may be fraught with uncertainty, but the promise of truth and awakening is worth every sacrifice. I know that with time, the seeds of understanding I plant today may one day bloom into a reconciliation I desperately seek. With every testimony shared and every prayer uttered, I step further into my purpose, feeding the flames of awakening that shine brightly in the lives of those around me. Now that you've journeyed through my experiences, I have a pressing question for you. Have you ever found yourself standing on the precipice of belief, wrestling with the shadows of tradition while yearning for a deeper truth? Because in hidden corners of our existence, something immense is unfolding, and we all play a part in this intricate tapestry. Throughout my journey from the confines of tradition to the liberating light of Jesus, I discovered that we are not alone in this spiritual war. Every moment we spend questioning, every whisper of doubt, is a turn toward the divine calling that seeks to awaken us. I witnessed the interwoven dialogues between faith and fear, revelation and rejection, and I felt the weight of these struggles resonate in the hearts of countless souls. You are not merely an observer, you are a participant in this cosmic battle for truth and love. I want to know your story. Have you experienced a moment that changed everything? A flicker of understanding that ignited your spiritual quest? Please share your insights and encounters in the comments below. Together we can create a community that encourages healing and connection. a sanctuary for those seeking the light amidst the shadows. And if this message resonated with you, don't leave without subscribing to Truth from Beyond and hitting that notification bell. The revelations we're uncovering together are just the beginning, and what lies ahead could be profoundly transformative for us all. As we close this chapter, prepare for the next video, where we'll explore another powerful testimony that exposes the love and truth of Jesus in ways you might never have expected. Together, let's remain vigilant in this spiritual quest. I'm Amir, and I thank you for being a part of this journey. Remember, the truth awaits those who dare to seek it.